disconnected because my network is, again, not doing great.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so the call is still going, but the stream has disconnected. So okay, there we go. Stream is back. Sorry about the disconnection. Like I mentioned, my network says no. Yeah, and I would honestly not recommend starting with rules. I would say I use a rule when I have, 1 or 2 turns maximum that have to go a specific way. So a good example would be something like if I'm, building like a fun bartending bot and I absolutely cannot serve it to anyone who's under 21 in the United States, because you can't advertise alcohol to people who are underage. I would have like one rule that's like, ask if someone's under 21, and if they are, conversation immediately ends every time. But for the rest of it, I would recommend stories. They're more flexible, they're more easy to expand because you can take your user stories. And I'm just going to double check. I think I need to actually talk to the chat real quick. So yeah, rules are good. They're the sprinkles on the cupcake.
Interestingly, here we actually disagree because I usually start with rules.
Oh, yes. Strong star.
Yeah. Because I imagine, I know, as I said, I know what the bot want to do, and therefore for me it's much easier write a couple of snippets and I already have a working bot, right? So you don't need to train anything. I don't need to create the full story. I don't need to envision the full conversation. I just envision the bits of conversation, and then I can. But yeah, and then I can work with the bot from there, kind of. But again, there's no right or wrong, I guess.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, don't do it Vova's way. Yeah, and just so folks know, I will be keeping an eye on both the new video and the old video, so hopefully everybody's questions will get answered. Wow, this is rough. Okay. Sometimes when there's a stream disconnection, YouTube makes 2 videos and it makes my job a pain. Okay, so other examples. Magda is the next question. So this is from the old video. We'll switch to the new video when we get to the end of the question. Hi, Rachel and Vladimir. Hi, Magda. If you start with the basic happy and unhappy paths when writing stories, any other advice on how to use the TED policy best? Yeah, it's with, I would say, very basic happy and unhappy paths. And as soon as possible, get your assistant in front of people, and then mistakes, correct those mistakes, take that information, add it into your stories and retrain, and just like go through that cycle, starting as soon as possible, basically. Yeah, that's my general advice. Ooh, one sec. Yep, and I will. So it's in the. Also can't see the new video. If you go to the Rasa YouTube /live, it'll always show the most current live video.
I think it is for me. Called the Rasa region group on my YouTube.
So they will both have the same name. Very. Listen, I got lots of feelings about this. I don't like that it happens, and we got to deal with it, unfortunately. Lisa says the autofilling, disabling the autofilling doesn't work. If we don't use an entity, how can we use it later in the prediction? So this is for filling the form. You have several slots that have the same sorts of information in it. So you can look up the value of a slot without it being an entity, right? So an entity is something in the text that you pick out as being something that will be referred to multiple times, something that you store over the course of a conversation that you use later is a slot. No, it's not the reading. Sorry, that's what you said, Boba. Yeah, it's called the reading group. It's not. It's the Q&A. I'm gonna have to fix so many things.
Yeah, so while Rachel is fixing, I'll continue. So, you can have both intents and integers, right? And both intent and integers, you can put both in your stories or rules. And therefore, especially if as you pointed out before, it is a yes or no, then you can check your next action depending on the yes or no, depending on the intent. And then you can have, again, either custom action or a form that that will take this intent and fill the slots, basically in Python programmatically. If intent is affirmed, fill the slot with whatever, yes, 1. And or true. If the slot, if the intent is deny, fill it with 0 or false, something like that. There is multiple things, but I hope this is the idea.
And to answer Judy's question, which is pretty closely related, if you want to have something like a slot that's like 1 pizza. Oh my God, I'm completely. What's the name of the slot type? Sorry, the more tired I am, the worse I am at lexical recall, and it's a big problem for me. Slot types. So there is a specific type of slot where you can keep a more complex type of Python object. And I am.
Yeah, for example, you can have a Boolean, you can have a text, you can have a categorical slot, and my memory where ends. I think you can even have a custom slot that will differ with your own type and then featureize whatever the logic that you put in.
Any is what I was thinking, but I think also a list might work for this. I don't know, I might do it as like a dictionary or something. But yeah, slots do not just have to be text, it's just that they are often text. All right. Smock says, I want to learn Rasa completely with certification. So I would say if you would like a course, you can try the Rasa for Beginners on Udemy that Maddie did. We also have a paid course that goes through the certification stuff. I believe taking certification test is free. I might be incorrect on that. I know that we're sort of talking a lot about how the certification works. There's also the masterclass videos are unfortunately all for Rasa 1.x rather than 2.x. So some of the syntax will be incorrect, but the general principles will be the same. So watching the masterclass videos should also help. Yeah, I hope that helps. And we're getting there. I'm trying to scale up my Rasa bot. I'm using multiple Sanic workers to scale up, but the problem is the spacey model, which consumes a lot of RAM and loads model as many times as workers specify it. How to overcome the issue of multiple, the same model being loaded multiple times.
My workers?
I don't know. I will say this is not my area of expertise necessarily. I would ask about this on the forums. One sec, let me pop up. Yeah, so forum.rasa.com. I would check that out and ask there. Yeah, this sounds like Greg would definitely know this, or like Aryan, but I just don't off the top of my head. Oh, sorry about that. All right, so we've got, I think that's the last of the questions from the stream, the first one. And it looks like nobody's asked any questions in the second one. I know it says reading group. I'll fix it. I'll fix all the videos. Not what I wanted to do today, but nonetheless, what I will do today. Do you have any other questions? If you would like to ask in the chat. And in the meantime, do you have anything that you would like to share, Vova, coming up, or any recent papers people might want to read, or anything you want to share?
Not, not that immediately comes to my mind. Unfortunately, lately I was busy with finishing the end-to-end.
Which is out now.
Which is out now, by the way,
Yeah.
yes. Want much more complexity, introduce much more complexity to the creation of your bot than use end-to-end. It's actually great. Sometimes it works like magic when you just provide some, kind of text-to-text data and then just answers. So what I want to say is, again, what something I think I said in the beginning, and I'll report, I quite often see the questions on the forums, like what is the best way to do that? What is the best way to do that? And as you notice, there's actually no best way. So for example, Rachel doesn't start with rules. I start with rules.
Don't start with rules. Rules are not the best way.
Rules are the best, and I will argue about that. But just the question of how you overuse and so on, and that's why we provide so many tools in Rasa, right? It does at the first might sound a bit too complex or convoluted, but actually, we tried hard to make it as convoluted as possible. That's why we have all these possible videos. But the other main reason why, because there are tools, we develop tools without a use case in mind, right? So usually when people in the classical, so to say, machine learning competition or something, they have a data set and they need to solve it, and they create an algorithm to solve it. What we are doing is we are creating an algorithm to solve the problems that we don't know. We don't see your data sets. We don't see what you want to do. We just create an algorithm that we hope work best. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. It seems like more often...
Ones that don't work, we don't put in Rasa. Vova speaking as a researcher now.
Yeah, and quite often, there is no best way, or we even don't yet know the best way, right? For example, we just released end-to-end. And if you ask me when to use it, when is the best way to use it, I have no idea. I'm just actually nearly at the same time starting to use it as all of our users. So in that sense, we are a bit on par. So just try different things, find whatever works for you better. And another thing that came to my mind recently is that developing a bot, like bots or conversational assistants or conversational interfaces or however you want to call them, they're not a final product. It is the process. And therefore, developing a bot, like bot is a process. You will need to improve it. It's nearly impossible to kind of, develop the ideal bot and then release it and everyone will be happy. Yeah. No, it's like be prepared to release the initial thing. Maybe first share it with people who you trust and, not publicly. Get the first feedback, then iterate on it. It's an iterative process and be prepared to improve it with time and so on. So this is maybe what I want as a conclusion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's I don't know, I know that there's sort of a thread of machine learning engineering where you build the big model and it's too expensive to ever retrain, so you just don't, and it's done. But I mean, we've done a lot of work to try and make Rasa very lightweight, and also text data in particular is just less time or memory intensive than a lot of other types of data. So yeah, it's treat it like any software development project where you're going to have to iterate and improve over time and fix bugs. Oh, and we do have a question from Yasmin. Hi, Yasmin. I'm glad you found the second half of the video. Can we use Keras policy in Rasa 2.x?
Keras policy is removed from Rasa framework because there is a paper, actually, I believe it's called Dialog Transformers, our paper, where we explain that LSTMs are not very good for dialog management. Briefly, LSTM is linear in nature. It processes one input after another, and the dialogues are nonlinear in its nature. And therefore, another sequence model like transformer suits better the nature of the dialogues. So therefore, we deprecated LSTM and removed it from the code base in favor of transformer, and transformer trains faster. So,
and to sort of like elaborate on that linear, I mean, it is true that conversations are linear in time, but if you sort of like trace the relationship of words to each other and what things refer to and what topics people talk about, like conversations don't go one thing, we're leaving that thing entirely, second thing, we're leaving that thing entirely, third thing. So the sort of like degree of connections and long distance connections make transformers a good choice for this particular type of task.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to, you don't have that bottleneck that you have to have done, n minus I from 0 all the way to get to n. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
Sorry, the rise of the transformer.
Is that a movie title?
Rise of the Transformers. No, it's the description of modern NLP machine learning state of affairs, I would say.
I was just making sure that I didn't miss a reference. Okay, so I think it is time. I'm certainly losing steam. I need another coffee, I think. Thank you, Boba. We had a lot of really good questions today. Thank you, everybody who joined. Sorry for the connection issues. Really out of my hands, unfortunately. And I'll go back and fix the videos today. And hopefully I haven't made my life too hard in the future. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for joining Boba. Tomorrow we will be having the reading group, and actually it's a first. We're going to be reading a blog post by, I don't know if you saw this, Fred Schwartz has a one where she talks about the common sense reasoning from her, she did it with a bunch of other people like Hal DeMay and other folks at ACL. So it's the blog post version of an ACL tutorial that I looked through and was like, I want to read this in more depth. So I am excited to read that. And then on Friday for live coding, we'll actually be doing a code walkthrough. I had somebody request this. So we're actually going to be doing a code walkthrough for the Rasa for Beginners bot, and just sort of talking about like, hey, here's what all the stuff is, here's what it does, here's what connects to what, that sort of thing. So that should be hopefully helpful. Start the year off on a good note. Yeah, and then we'll be back next Wednesday for more office hours. All right. And I'm going to call it there. Thanks for joining, Boba. Thank you.